Hello and welcome to another video from eDub Services. My name is Kit Lacey, Managing Director here at eDub HQ. It's great that you're with us. Today we are looking at a very special video that's a bit different from what we would normally try and show you. This time we're going to be delving deep into the archives to look at the origins of eDub Services. Right back in the day was eDub Trips. We're going to be looking at Indy, our flagship product, our first camper van, the world's first classic electric camper to hire. Such an exciting journey. And the topic of this particular video that we're going to be looking at here is the quest to meet Robert Llewellyn. Yes, that's right. We had a goal at the beginning of the process to create something that was incredible and to create something that was really unique. And in doing so, our goal, the thing that not so much kept me going, but to say, do you know what? I just want to meet Robert Llewellyn and then all will be well. So stay tuned, find out how we did it, if we did it, the roller coaster that took us there. So stay tuned and let's find out how it went. So, eDub Services started as eDub Trips. This was way back in 2013. We were officially registered as a company in October 2013, the 16th of October, I believe, to be precise, which is around about my mum's birthday, in case anyone wanted to know. And it was one of those times, it actually started the conversation the summer of 2013. And I always say that the best ideas come on long road trips. Me and my mum, so my mum is she's a lecturer, senior lecturer in kind of electric vehicles and vehicle to grid and battery management bits and pieces like that. She's had various roles over the years. But we were having a conversation and I loved camper vans and she knew a bit about the electric technology. We said, well, can we put the two together? And after an hour or so, we thought, well, yeah, let's give it a go. So later on in October in 2013, we were registered. And we started to pull together the team that would help us out. We managed to find a company in the UK who was able to supply some of the parts. We sourced some information from, as many of you will know, the company EV West over in the States. So got a kind of shopping list from them. And we worked with a local mechanic here in the UK based up near Whitby. And all the pieces were in place to start the ball rolling. So the origin of the bus, Indy the bus is originally an American import. If you look at the sliding door on Indy, you'll notice that it's on the wrong side for which side her steering wheel is. She's an American import. The story goes she was imported into the US, into the UK from the US. Somebody bought her, stripped her, put her in primer, took all the windows out, all the interior out, and then they ran out of money. Doesn't that happen? So the garage who imported it, a garage up in Sunderland, bought the vehicle back and it was available to buy. And for us, it was perfect. It had nothing. It was a complete blank slate. That was absolutely perfect for us. So we went and had a look at this van. We had a look at a few other options as well, but this one just ticked all of the boxes. So we put an offer in for the van and we bought it up. I think in total we paid about £5,000 for that van, and that was with an understanding that we would do the paint job through them. And I think the gearbox was still it was the right-hand drive, left-hand drive that they did for us as well. So they did it was obviously American when we bought it, which still is American technically. You don't just change. It was a left-hand drive switched to right-hand drive as part of the deal, and then obviously we put everything in place to finish as we went there. So we placed the order for the parts. The parts started to arrive. We originally went with 180 amp hour CALB cells, kind of cereal box size batteries, and we went for 46 of them. Now, the missing component here, we seem to believe we bought 48 of these batteries, and yet fitted in the vehicle are only 46. So 2 batteries at some point have ended up at the back of somebody's garage. If you know where they are, if you've come across 2 blue CALB cells, then let me know, because I think they're mine. But these are all bought in. As they all started to arrive with our mechanic in Whitby, it was so exciting to see, and the motors arriving and the different bits are coming, and we're starting to understand how it all goes together. We had to do some modifications of the battery management system to make them fit onto the cells. That was all good and fun. But then again, the ball was rolling rapidly. So alongside the kind of fabrication of the build, the vehicle, the components, and making all that together, we were also obviously building a business. I'm quite a visual person myself. I'm not, well, I am now mechanically minded. At the time, no idea. Couldn't tell you what a clutch was. Nowadays, but at the same time, we were building the business side of things as well. Now, what's quite interesting that I always find, right from the beginning of eDub, way back in 2013, the logo that you will have seen of our business was the first thing that popped into my head. I wanted something that looked similar to a regular OEM logo, some of the branded stuff, something simple, but that you'd have to maybe take a second glance at to realize, oh, I don't actually recognize that logo, or why is that different? And we, of course, wanted it featured on the front of our vehicle. And so again, it would be this opportunity that people would look at the vehicle and say, oh, that's interesting. Or look at that VDub, people would say. And then, hang on, there's something not quite right about that. It's going very fast. It's going very quiet. It's not a slightly different logo. There's no cloud of smoke following it down the road. I wanted that from the beginning. That was always a big goal. And even in the very early days, we had a plan of having the roof of our eDub painted in a full chrome finish. So that again, there was something that said, this is different, there's something different about this. In the end, that idea never came to fruition, but it would be curious to think what eDubs would look like with that niche of marketing and branding. We also set ourselves up, so we had a pitch booked in 2015 to be at the VW Harewood Festival. That was our goal, to be at that festival. And so we started to get a few bits of branding together. We started to get some kind of t-shirts made up and some jackets made up, and the logo was all throwing out there. We were aiming to be there with a plot, talk to people all about our electric conversion, and ideally take a few bookings. This whole business was meant to have a good return on investment. So we take some money to start us off, convert the van, hire it out, and turn it into a product, was always the plan. So we didn't make it to the VW festival for a number of reasons. And the next thing on our calendar was we had been invited to a festival down in Frome. Now, if you know where we are and you know where Frome is, you know that they're not nearby. We're up in North Yorkshire near Borough Bridge. Frome is down in Somerset. Now, Frome was a very fun festival that we were invited to, and at the time Indy wasn't finished, but we were still invited. So we put Indy on a flat loader, we headed down south, me and my mum and my wife, we headed down, and then we pulled up outside the venue. We couldn't get inside, the vehicle was too tall, so the vehicle had to sit outside in the car park, and it absolutely chucked it down. And I always remember this as that it was a moment, there was nothing finished inside, the battery pack was assembled, but none of the components were working, nothing inside was finished. I think the seat was on the front and that was it. And even the pop top that was on top wasn't fixed to the vehicle, it was ratchet strapped on, and it had holes in the roof. So when it started to rain, which it did, my wife, I've got a fantastic picture, my wife had to sit there talking to potential customers with 2 plastic cups suspended above her head, holding the drips that came down through the roof. We had such a great time at that festival. We did our first kind of pitch of market research. We handed out some forms to find out what people loved about the vehicle, and the results of those were incredible. Finally, Indy was finished, or at least partially finished. She got to a point where she was driving. The interiors in the back weren't fully camp ready, but the driving was all working, all the pedals were working, the displays were working, and so we started a bit of testing. So we took a little drive out. We had a little anniversary trip to a local pub, me and my wife, just to experience it, and those memories of doing those for the first time was so much fun. As well as that, we started to identify some of the first little teething problems. So our Curtis controller that was controlling the motor was overheating. So what would happen is we would drive happily and merrily for about 5 or 6 miles, and then the Curtis controller would overheat and would start to downgrade the power that it would be able to drive. So we would just kind of slowly come to a stop, and we would have to do the old-fashioned car thing of waiting for it to cool down, to restart again. And we had a handful of stop. I remember we got a guy to come and take some really lovely photographs. And we went round our local town of Knaresborough, took some beautiful photographs. But we broke down, and I remember we had to sit at the side of a kind of lay-by for a little while as we lost the sun, waiting to be able to get home, which is something that happened quite a lot during that period. The next thing that we had to do was cabinets. We had to finish off the interior of the vehicle. We had to get that all done, and we used a fantastic local cabinet maker, which we've used many times since, who's now becoming a bit au fait with campervan products and interiors for that. So if you're ever wanting a decent interior for your campervan to a really high standard, then Edward Daniel is your man. The next event that we had on our diary was the first VW event of the year, which is something called eDub, which is coincidentally in Harrogate, near where we are based. And so we head off to eDub. Now, eDub was a real experience. eDub was more market focused on, let's say, boys and their toys. You know the kind of VW market I'm talking about. So we kind of felt slightly out of place, sat in the middle of a marquee with our green electric camper van surrounded by some very loud engines that were being shown off to everyone. But still, we had a brilliant reception. We had all our interiors finished. It was the first time we took the plastic off the seats. That was fun. It was so much fun to be, again, actually out at an event talking to people about what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to create. And that was such a really fun experience there at eDub as well. There are just a couple more tests for us to do before we had our magic date in the diary to head down south again for an event where Robert Llewellyn, the aim of the project, Robert Llewellyn, he wasn't quite, let's pretend he was. Robert Llewellyn was going to be attending that, he was going to be speaking at it, we were planning to be there as well, and let's hope that some alignment would be caught by it. But before that, we had to do a couple more tests. So we took out on real life tests. I love real life tests. We had to go camping. Unfortunately, we had to go and travel to a campsite local to us. We had to check that the electrics would work on site, because again, one of the big points of this project is that you can just plug in and it will, as any other motorhome would do, and it would not just power your interior electrics, but would charge the van overnight. We're testing that with a beautiful site near us called Old Station in Massam. Massam's a brilliant place to go if you like cheese and beer. It's just perfect. So we stayed at the Old Station and everything went really, really smoothly. We had a wonderful time, charged up, and yeah, everything went exactly to plan, which was fantastic. The other thing that we were able to test as well was Indy's curb appeal. We had our first wedding, which was for my cousin. And that was just a really good experience as well. We got to dress Indy up, put the ribbons on, put the flowers on, and just have a really fun experience of carrying, obviously transporting people, bridal parties and such to and from the venues. That was just really great for us to be able to do that, because obviously V-dubs are quite frequently used in that capacity. So for us to be able to tick that off our eDub bucket list was a definite win. And we always argue that with weddings, you don't really want, although it's nice to be seen in these classic cars, there's normally a dirty smell or a cloud of dust or such. And we see a lot of, you hear a lot of stories of people breaking down in their wedding cars and having to be recovered. We hear that all too often. So electric makes sense going the way forward. So then finally the day came. We were ready to head off to the show. Now this show was Electra. This was in 2016, I believe. So a few years after obviously we started. And we had our goal, our sights set. Now for the ultimate test, we decided to drive from our base in North Yorkshire to Electra, which was in Malvern, down south from us, over towards the Welsh border. And that was a really fun test. So Indy is a low voltage conversion, so she has no rapid charging. She can charge at 7 kilowatts. And so we planned an early start and a couple of stops on the way down to charge at some 7 kilowatt charging stations. And it's amazing the things you can get done while you're exploring a new town with charging stations. And then obviously a stop overnight and a short drip into Electra for the show. And we arrived great. It was the first time we met some of the other kind of players in the game. First time we met the team over at Indra. It's the first time we met Richard and his very small team at the time of electric classic cars. And lo and behold, the sun was smiling on us that day because we got to meet Robert Llewellyn as well. We had a lovely few minutes chat as he was doing the rounds between his talks, looking at our vehicle. And I quote, he said to me, "Oh, we have to do an episode on that." I'm waiting for the email. But yeah, it was just so fantastic. So we managed to do it. We managed to get down there. We managed to meet Robert. We managed to put another pin in this project, tick off that bucket list. And that was 3 or 4 years ago now. So much has changed since then. And India's constantly still evolving. India's currently through in the workshop now, slightly in pieces as we rearrange some of the components now that we better understand them, and some pieces have become obsolete and changed and moved. We're constantly reinventing to make her as beautiful and wonderful and practical and enjoyable as possible. So India is still available to hire through edubtrips.co.uk. Check out the other projects that we're doing on edubconversions.co.uk. And that's the kind of stuff that we're on about. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that's been interesting to you guys to hear some of the background of this original project. There's so many other nuts and bolts. If there were little parts of what we spoke about that you'd love to know more about, please let me know in the comments below, and we can dive into loads more detail. I have pictures galore if you want to see them. So yeah, it's been really great to talk to you about this. And I hope to see you again next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and share it with people you know. That would be really incredible. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again next time.